Kickoff for the 2025 college football season is just around the corner, and you know it's getting close when we have our good friend Jake Crain of Crain Company on. He's one of the best in the business when it comes to talking all things college football and really just sports in general. Jake, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time. Great to chat with you once again. Was great seeing you in person a few weeks ago, and congrats to you guys on all your big success, man. You guys deserve it.
Well, first off, brother, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on as usual. Yeah, it's kind of a mile marker when I come on to let you know how close we are to football season. And at the end of the day, I only know four things, and they all start with F. Football just happens to be one of them. So, no, man, I'm excited. I tell you, Chris, this season, I can't remember, even going back when I was coaching, but before I got into sports media, a season where I feel like more teams actually had a chance to win the whole thing than this season. I mean, you can make a legitimate argument for a decent amount of teams, which makes it more fun, man. Instead of just knowing, hey, this is the one elite team, everybody else is going to be chasing them, or these are the two elite teams, everybody else is going to be chasing them. It's going to be incredible. The week one matchups are awesome. Hell, at this point, I'd be willing to watch Friday Night Tykes if it was on. I'm so ready for it.
Jake, I want to start with this because your allegiances are pretty well known when it comes to the Auburn Tigers. What's been your favorite Auburn fall camp storyline? I feel like we get a new one of these every single day, man. Even today with the claim to national championships now increasing the amount of national titles Auburn has, there's been a lot of chatter about Hugh Freeze, and I know you and we had some fun on the timeline last week with the visor throw with Jackson. I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Like, and I think it lets you know there's obviously a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations, when all that stuff that doesn't really have much to do with the on-field stuff. Like, nobody's played a game. I think it goes to kind of let you know what the energy is around there. But you have a favorite off-season story? It feels like we've gotten so many storylines with Auburn at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the beat writers for Auburn are just basically playing volleyball with Hugh Freeze's head right now. Look, when it's not going good on the field, I mean, everything gets put in a negative light. I mean, look at the golf. That was probably the funniest. The golf one was probably the funniest to me because people are out there like, oh, Hugh's just playing golf and he's not coaching or recruiting or whatever. And my thing was like, so give me the scenario of how this works. So there's a 5-star on the phone that wants to talk to Hugh Freeze, but he has an 8-foot putt on number 7 for birdie in a scramble tournament, so he doesn't talk to him. It's just, look, and that's part of it. It's part of the job. If he goes out and Auburn does well in the field, people will be sending him 9-irons and putters and golf bags and all type of stuff. And when you get paid this type of money, and when you're in a high pressure situation at a place like Auburn or these other places, when it's not going well on the field, there is going to be a lot more negative light shown onto it until you show that you can do it on the field. The 3 quarterbacks one was hilarious to me because he was asked, and he kind of answered in jest. He was asked if all 3 quarterbacks could possibly play in the game, and he said yes. People are taking that like there's some 3-way quarterback race at Auburn. I mean, hell, there's a possibility that 9 quarterbacks could play in the game if 7 guys get hurt. But at this point, everything he says, regardless of if it's right or if it's football smart or if it's wrong or if it's stupid, is going to be made fun of. It's going to be mocked by Lane Kiffin and the rest of the college football world. And that's just part of it when it comes to, this job at a place like this. And he knows he's got to win on the field because it cures everything else. So I'm just ready for kickoff, man. I'm ready to see it, good, bad, or indifferent.
Jake, I want to stick with Auburn really quickly because I actually tuned into you guys' Auburn predictions, and obviously everybody listening right now, go check out Crain Company. All the predictions you guys are dropping are absolutely fantastic and a fun listen for sure, especially the Auburn one because you guys, again, the ties you have to that program.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I thought it was interesting. You had Auburn beating Georgia, obviously. I loved kind of the way you set it up for the Alabama game. This is what Auburn does. They build you up just to let you down.
Yeah.
And you guys were just talking about, though, the expectations. You probably need to go 8-4 or better, but I think what you said is on the money. If you go 7-5, it would have to be the right 7. You probably need to beat a Georgia or a Bama. Just your thoughts, the overall outlook on the Auburn Tigers. I mean, it really, to me, I think the most important game you could argue, Jake, it starts in week 1 at Baylor. You got to win that game, set the tone the right way for the season. Just your overall thoughts going in, what Hugh Freeze and company need to do.
Well, if you've ever followed Auburn, when they're supposed to be good, they let you down. When they're supposed to be bad, they find a way to do good and then let you down at the end. Outside of the Cam Newton season, I hate to use the term must win early in the season. I really hate to use it in general till you get to the end of the season. But with all the negativity that we just mentioned with Auburn, the Baylor game is massive. And it's really going to be the rudder for the season. You're going to get to see Jackson Arnold under the lights to see if he's matured and been able to figure out some things and gotten a little bit more developed. As far as overall record, I landed on 8-4. And again, look, I've picked Auburn to go 6-6 before. I'm not doing this one on hard. I just try and follow the bounce of the ball, so I want to win bets. 8-4 feels about right to me. It's in year 3. You've had chances to beat Alabama. You've had chances to beat Georgia. You haven't done it. You get them both at home this season. And the way I see it playing out is I do have Auburn beating Baylor, but then I have them losing on the road at Oklahoma and then College Station before they go into that bye week before Georgia, in a game that's going to feel like a must win against one of your two biggest rivals. And when you look at kind of Georgia's schedule, it's been one of the first true road tests for Gunnar Stockton in the league in a crazy environment. Auburn's going to have it. I do feel like that weird juju may come out in that game. But when you look at this Auburn team, I do think, Chris, it's the best roster that they've probably had. I think you can make an argument since 2017, especially if the quarterback play is above average. I don't think it has to be elite. It just has to be above average with some of the weapons and the offensive line that Auburn has this year and the depth I think they have there. Not to mention looking outside with Singleton Jr. Apparently it looks like Malcolm Simmons is going to be all right. We know who Cam Coleman is. So yeah, I mean, you feel like in year 3, the pieces are there in the roster to be able to move on from this 5-7, 6-6, upside down from Stranger Things world that Auburn fans have been living in for the past 5 years. But you make a great point. Momentum's not just something that ran into Isaac Newton. It's something that's real. And that Baylor game on the road against a team that, I mean, Phil Steele picked Baylor to win the Big 12. I mean, this sitting they go on the road and you should beat this team to death. So yeah, I think the right 7-5, which means you do have to beat Alabama or Georgia, would allow him to be fine, especially if Jackson Arnold looks good. Either that, or you end up going in 7-5 because you put Deuce Knight in halfway through the year and he looks like a stud, and it turns into a Billy Napier, DJ Lagway situation of keep the coach to keep the quarterback. So I think there's a couple routes in 7-5, but you just feel like to be fully safe at 8-4 is the number.
Jake, we're single digits away from kickoff, at least for week 1, thank goodness, in the SEC getting underway. We're mere days away from week 0. Finally, college football is back. What's the offseason narrative or storyline or talking point you're most excited to put to bed as the season gets underway?
Well, I mean, which big brand with a great roster around a brand new starting quarterbacks, which of those new starting quarterbacks, whether they're older or younger, whether they've been in the program or transferred in, is going to be able to elevate their play to the great roster around them? I mean, you just look at Arch Manning in Texas. You look at John Mateer in Oklahoma as well. You look at Julian Sayin in Ohio State, Gunnar Stockton in Georgia, Ty Simpson in Alabama. I can go down the list, and it's been a really fun narrative to see. And a lot of these guys, Chris, they don't have to be Batman. They just have to be a really good Robin. I use Julian Sayin as an example of that all the time. When you look at the talent that is stacked around Julian Sayin, and people will talk about, Jeremiah Smith, obviously. They'll talk about Carnell Tate, some of the other young wide receivers that Ohio State has that are really talented. I look at the running back room. I love them bringing in Donaldson as well to go with Peoples and some of the other weapons they have. But Max Clare, the tight end from Purdue, I think him and Stowers from Vandy, you could make a legitimate argument, are the top 2 tight ends in the country. And there is no better friend to a young quarterback on 3rd and medium than a big ass, wide bodied tight end that's got soft hands and is not afraid to go over the middle and make a play. So, which one of those quarterbacks is going to elevate themselves to the point where the roster that's great around them turns them into an elite team? And it's not good. That's why you look at Texas, Ohio State. It's such a fascinating game week one because while Arch has a much bigger sample size than Julian's saying, it's not a huge sample size. And you've got to go on the road in an offense under Steve Sarkisian that is very pre-snap read heavy, very pre-snap motion heavy, very cerebral, a lot of moving parts and timing oriented that you're going to have to go do on the road. It's not just about your physical attributes while the play is going on. And then Ohio State has a new defensive coordinator and a new offensive coordinator with Brian Hartline with a new quarterback. So how conservative will each one of the play callers be? One having a new quarterback that's going on the road in a tough environment, and another one that has a young new quarterback that has a new offensive coordinator and has not played in a game like this. That to me is just one of the many fascinating storylines. And then what else is great, Chris, is you got the exact opposite for LSU going to Clemson. We have the rare match of two returning really, really good quarterbacks with Nussmeier going on the road to face Klubnik and kind of an experienced, AARP battle at quarterback, it feels like, in 2025.
Jake, right now we're at that point in the preseason. All of our predictions right now fit in this neat little box. We write them down on paper or we post our graphics. And in our minds, at least, they all make sense. But as you and I both know, college football doesn't make any sense. We saw that last year. Yep. When you look at the league, it feels as if the general understanding from most is the top tier is your Bama, Texas, Georgia, and LSU. Do you see it that way? Is it maybe only three of those four I mentioned? And who do you think could be that, if it were to happen, that big disruptor in the league? I know we talked about Blaine's predictions off the air. What he's picking, I think that would obviously count and fall in that category. But, like, when you look at the top of the league, is it as simple as it's these four, then there's this gap to tier two? Or do you think there's somebody else that's going to prove themselves worthy of being considered among the elites in the league?
Well, kind of like I said about all of college football, I think the SEC is as wide open as it's ever been this year. And two teams that you didn't mention that I think you could pencil in there is Oklahoma, who we've been high on since March, and it seems like a lot of people are coming around to Oklahoma. When you look at the way it went down last year, when you look at the additions through the portal, not only on the field but from the coaching standpoint, bringing Arbuckle in, letting Brent focus more on the defense, and then the hardest team for me to predict, Chris, I'll go ahead and tell you, was South Carolina. I think when you talk about range of seasons, I think South Carolina could go anywhere from 8-4 to 11-1. You look at Lenoris and Dylan Stewart. At any point in time, they could have the best player on either side of the ball. But until I see, it's kind of like I'm not going to believe in LSU till I see they can run the ball. I'm not going to believe in South Carolina until I see how they replace losing six of the starting seven in the front seven last year that people didn't talk enough about. I mean, hell, Kennard won the Nagurski. South Carolina finished with the 4th overall defense in the Southeastern Conference, which means you're probably a top 10, top 12 defense in all of college football when you aggregate all the numbers. And people talk about Ole Miss. I love some Austin Simmons. I got to see how they replace some guys they have on the defensive side of the ball. But then we talked to the head of the Senior Bowl, and hell, Ole Miss has got like 10 guys that are in the top 300. So South Carolina to me is a wild card. We're releasing our SEC predictions today, our final predictions, who's going to win the conference, player of the year, this, that, and the other. And I had the hardest time with South Carolina, but I really do think Oklahoma's a problem. And I think you're going to see it week 2 against Michigan when they beat that ass up when Sharon comes back home.
Jake, let's take a look at week 1. Again, it's never too early. Obviously, we said just a little bit over a week away when Missouri will get things going on that Thursday night. Then, of course, Auburn, Baylor on Friday. I know you guys have big plans for that, and then we're off and running into the weekend. You've already talked about a few, but I'll give you the floor. And if you even want to take this outside the SEC as well, just games that intrigue you most. I mean, there's some that are very obvious here. Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, like you said. But I think Bama, Florida State's really interesting. You mentioned South Carolina getting Virginia Tech. South Carolina historically has struggled a little bit in openers. Notre Dame, Miami later that day is a big game. And also, too, what makes it fascinating, Jake, is, again, we think we know what we think we know, but these openers, I mean, they've never been more unpredictable because it's so many new moving pieces that you just don't know how it's all going to come together in week 1. I mean, that's why they say coaches or teams make the most improvement from week 1 to week 2 because you finally have something on tape from a game that you can make adjustments from. So what fascinates you about week 1? And if you want to throw any of your favorite bets in there, would love to hear it.
Other than the ones we've talked about, Notre Dame, Miami, outside of the SEC, I just love the matchup, the tradition, the pageantry that, Catholics first convicts, all that. And I want to see Carson, at Miami, how he operates in that offense, how healthy he looks. And then, Notre Dame just named CJ Carr their starting quarterback. And I'll turn on the tape and watch Notre Dame play defense any day of the week. Their linebacking group, I tell you, if you want to watch some guys that don't false step, that understand what they're seeing, that are able to be a step ahead of the plays. Go watch the linebacker group that Notre Dame has. They're really, really special. I think that game's going to be physical as hell. And then seeing how Miami, they've improved on defense with that new DC, bringing in that 4-2-5, which is the best defense to run, in my opinion. But that's a story for another day. One that I find kind of interesting that I'm worried about, and I need to go back and look at the spread of it. If you're looking at taking a dog in week 1, Toledo going to Kentucky. At the end of the day, I think this is Mark Stoops last year. I know the buyout's big, but the fact that Jason Candle is still at Toledo, and you look at some of the pieces that they have, they could go in there and give Kentucky all they want in week 1 in Lexington. So I want to see Calzada move around too. But yeah, Missouri with Provula there, I want to see the way the offense looks because I think it's going to have to be different than what we've seen the past couple of years with Brady Cook and Luther Burden. I think it's going to be more ball control. I think it's going to be more downhill. I think the defense from Missouri is going to be solid. I don't think enough people are talking about that. But I can tell you that we talked Texas, Ohio State, Auburn, Baylor, obviously. But I just love the diversity of matchups. Because again, week 2 is not nearly as heavy as what week 1 is. Bama at Florida State, I just think they're going to beat their ass, Chris. I want to sit here and I want to see a good game. And, whether you love Florida State or hate Florida State, it's good when Florida State's good for the hype machine in college football. But after the way that the scariest thing for Florida State is that Alabama has said nothing about what he said. You would rather Alabama come out and be like, yeah, we're going to kill that guy. They've said nothing. I think the only thing they said was it will be handled during the game. Next question. That's like I would rather my parents be mad and yell at me than be disappointed. I think that Thomas Castellanos may be the first American citizen to self-deport after what Alabama does to them. Because if you've seen the lineups, that front 7 that Alabama has, really the whole defense, if we're going to be honest, the things that it's basically a sequel to Pacific Rim, what Alabama's got running around in that front 7 with Overton and those guys. Look, you got balls, dog. You put them on the table, but at the end of the day, it's one thing to get beat up. It's another thing to get beat up in front of your friends and family, and I think that's what's going to happen for Florida State.
Jake, on the note of the Kentucky-Toledo game, our friends over at FanDuel right now, the latest odds, Toledo is plus 7.5.
Oh, 7! It's at 7.5 right now. That's
7.5.
You might as well take that. You might as well take that.
Yeah.
Take Toledo plus 7.5. And if you got a little, if you know where your parents' piggy bank is, or you want to sneak in there and grab that $20 from under their mattress, maybe sprinkle a little bit on that Toledo money line there. I'm telling you, they got a couple cats that can do it over there. And Jason Candle, he knows what he's doing.
Toledo money line plus 250, by the way. Yeah, I think this was up to I think it was double digits at one point this offseason, but it has slowly crept down a touchdown. That kind of gives you a good indication where Kentucky is.
It sounds
right
about
now
right to me when you
look
at the personnel.
It does. Hey, let's not forget what Toledo did last year in Starkville. That game over by halftime. Jake, like you said, you guys are dropping your predictions for the SEC. Was there anything that surprised you as maybe you went through the schedules and you're like, I didn't expect to be quite as high on this team as I am, or I didn't expect that, that I'd be quite as low, or thought they'd have kind of a difficult season? Because for me personally, I did. I think a lot of it's because, as we both know, not all these schedules are created equally. There's some that over the summer I was like, I don't really think all that highly of them. Tennessee's a good example. I was like, I don't really know about the Joey Aguilar thing. But you look at the way the schedule sets up, you're like, it's conducive to a big year, like it is. So were there any like that for you? You were surprised one way or another?
Yeah, to be honest, really the one that surprised me, though, because, the teams at the top, I had a pretty good idea of, and we had already done some single season record predictions, so I knew where some of the top ones were going to end up. The one that surprised me, and I'll just give you a little insight into it, I got Vandy going 1-7 in the league. Because again, I know everybody is hot on Diego Pavia, and you bring back Stowers, and you return a lot from that team that beat Alabama last year and beat Auburn, but they also lost to Georgia State. And the way teams are going to prepare for Vanderbilt this year is a whole hell of a lot different than the way that they prepared for him last year. So I got the schedule right here. I got him beating Charleston Southern. I got him beating Virginia Tech. I got him losing at South Carolina. I got him beating Georgia State, beating Utah State. So you start out 4-1, then you're going to lose at Alabama, and it's probably going to be awful. Then you get a bye week, and then LSU comes to town. I think you lose that. And then see the ones in between. I think Missouri beats them. I think Missouri beats Vanderbilt in Nashville. Then you go to Texas. Then I've got them beating Auburn at home, because that's just what Auburn will do. They'll beat Georgia, then lose to Vanderbilt. I've seen this movie too many times. And then I've got Vandy losing to Kentucky, Kentucky's only SEC win at the end of the season, because Kentucky always sneaks somebody. Last year it was Ole Miss. This year, as much as you can sneak Vandy in what'll be a cripple fight at the end of the year if it works out the way I have it, and then losing at Tennessee in Knoxville on the road the last game of the season. And I don't think it's crazy. I mean, you could talk me out of Kentucky and Missouri maybe. Maybe it's 3-5 in the league is, I think, the best they can finish. But I'm not going to pick you to beat South Carolina on the road. I'm not going to pick you to beat Bama on the road. I'm not going to pick you to beat LSU at home or Texas on the road, or Tennessee on the road. So when I went through it, as much hype as Vandy's going to get, I think you're 1-7 in the league and 5-7 overall. I may be one off there. If they beat a Missouri or Kentucky, which would be a big one because it would get you to 6-6 and bowl eligible. But I'm not all. I'm not hiking up the skirt for Vandy this year like a lot of people are.
I was surprised you had them beating Virginia Tech, to be honest with you.
Look, and I know what happened last year. It's just
Drones is
still the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Drones is still the quarterback.
He's still the quarterback, yes.
And he can't throw it from me to you if we're in a phone booth together. So, at the end of the day, even though it's on the road, play Enter Sandman, do all that stuff, but you can't throw the ball. I don't care if AC/DC or whoever the hell shows up and plays it live. It ain't going to save you.
Was Auburn, Georgia the biggest upset you picked throughout the season, or was there another one?
Biggest upset. With the way it works out, because at that point, because I have Auburn.
Do you think that one will be? Do you think that one will be considered as big an upset at that point as it would probably be right now?
I've got Auburn at 3-2, coming off losses at Oklahoma and at A&M, and I've got Georgia at 5-0. So you may be looking at the number 1 overall Georgia or number 2 overall Georgia against an unranked Auburn team. That is probably the biggest upset, unless I'm just missing some crazy one here, which I don't think. I mean, Oklahoma beating Texas at the point I have them wouldn't be that big of an upset. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest one. One interesting thing, keep an eye out for my brother in Arkansas. It's got a little wonky today on the show. For some reason, he's kind of fat for Arkansas, and I don't know why.
Interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Jake Crain Company. Jake, you guys are doing a fantastic job, man. Last thing.
You too, man.
Jake's bold take. Is there anything in particular that you feel like you are on an island on when it comes to your predictions going into the season?
Well, it was Oklahoma, and now everybody else is jumping on the boat. So
and that's what scared me about Oklahoma.
I picked SMU last year to make the college football playoff, and the comments before the season, the comments I got were just hilarious. It was maybe the most satisfying receipt delivery that I've probably ever given in the short sports media career that I've had. I would say my boldest take is that I think Mississippi State beats Arizona State. I think they beat them. What's funny, Chris, I've got, because I can go ahead and tell you this because nobody's going to not watch if I tell them what Mississippi State. I've got Mississippi State starting 4-0, dog. I got them starting 4-0, beating Southern Miss, beating Arizona State, beating Alcorn State, beating Northern Illinois, and then not winning a damn game the rest of the season. So outside of Oklahoma, now that everybody's, maybe LSU at 9-3, maybe that, because a lot of people, I know my buddy JD over at On3 has picked LSU to win the whole thing. I got Texas at 9-3. So, I guess those would be two bold takes on the opposite. But look, I think Jeff Levy and Mississippi State beat Arizona State week 2 or week 3, whenever that is.
What's a crazier prediction? You picking that one or me picking Mississippi State to beat Tennessee?
Oh God, hold on. Let me look at where this falls.
If they're 4-0 and the balls are coming to town.
So you've got Mississippi State beating Tennessee.
I
So
do.
you have
I
Tennessee
think that's
losing.
their big upset. I think that's their one SEC. I think they lose the rest of them the way out. But I think
Dog,
they're.
if
I
they
think Levy's going to
started,
get somebody. I think Levy will get somebody this year.
if Mississippi State started 5-0,
we're living in a parallel universe.
you know how many? Yeah.
The aliens have come.
That's I'll start checking my 401k and stuff like that, and going home early and checking on my family. But I'm so excited for the year to get here. I think this year is going to be absolute madness, and we're just fired up, man. We're ready to go.
So how many teams do you have in the playoff from the SEC?
I haven't given away my playoffs yet,
okay.
but you can infer.
Right.
Well, you can infer.
Well, I'm just hearing Texas 9-3, LSU 9-3.
Right now, I'll tell you three. Because the fourth, if it works out the way you thought last year, people were pissed. Oh God, Chris, I've got Bama, Georgia, and Oklahoma in the playoff right now, and that there's another one, but you gotta wait until Thursday to see that one.
I know I'm throwing these quick hitters at you. Do you think a 9-3 team makes the playoff?
From the SEC, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Little course correction from last year.
Yes,
I like it.
I think you'll be very interested to see who it is, too.
I don't trust the committee to get that right, but it's okay. It is what it is. Only time will tell. Jake Crain Company. Again, guys, you heard it. Make sure you go check them out at Crain Company. Check out all the predictions. Jake, let folks know, in case they've been living under a rock, how they can find all you guys' great work.
Yeah, man, look, we were damn near around 70% last year in betting. So if you like betting and making money, my brother last year just basically went Rain Man for about 80% of the season. We'll see how that works out this year. But yeah, just YouTube. It's Crain Company, CRAIN and Company. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Roku, all that stuff. So come hang out with us, man. We're already put out our Iowa State, Kansas State preview prediction and best bet. For you guys that want to get in there and get your nose dirty early. So come check us out.
Jake, you're the man. Appreciate you taking the time. Keep up the great work, and we'll do it again soon.
All right, Chris. Appreciate you, buddy.